Okay, so let's get started with the session on auto-generating purchase orders. Now, there's a number of ways that purchase orders can be generated, and there's a number of ways that that order can be sort of fulfilled and how it's actually going to sort of fulfill your sales orders and your stock requirements. There's also a number of settings that will affect the way that those purchase orders are generated, and we're going to be looking at all the different scenarios in the course of the next about half an hour I expect this webinar to take. So first of all, I'm in stock control. We have our stock list here. I'm just going to have a little look in our stock control settings. So in stock control, utilities, and then system setup, we have stock control settings. There's a tab on the settings in settings option that's called SOP fulfillment. It's just going to load that up now. And there we have our SOP fulfillment methods tab. Now, to enable purchase order automation, you do have to have either one or both of these options selected. So we have to specify the fulfillment methods to be used. From stock is always ticked. We can't untick that, but we can choose to send stock via supplier, from a supplier via stock control, or from a supplier direct to a customer. I've got those options both ticked, and we're going to see the differences in those in just a moment. Going to raise a new sales order. Oh no, first of all what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new stock item. So in stock control, I'm going to create a new item, and we're going to follow that through the system just for clarity so you can see the stock requirements for that new item. So I'm going to give it a new stock code and a description, and select the product group that we're associating with that item. So this is all standard stock control, creating a new item. What is important to enable auto-generation of stock of purchase orders is you must have at least one supplier within the stock item that's created. We just select the supplier code that we want to purchase from, and in here we can identify the supplier's stock code, their lead time, any usual order quantity, minimum order quantity, their list price, and if there's an expiry date that can be recorded here, and just the price source as well. You can have any number of suppliers set up for your stock items. Okay, but one of those has to be, oh, I've already selected that one. Okay, but just one of them can be the preferred supplier, and by default that's the supplier that Sage will suggest that you purchase your stock item from. Another important thing to note is that on your locations you can specify a reorder level, minimum and maximum level. You have to have a reorder level of greater than 0 if you want the auto-generation procedure to suggest purchase orders to fulfill stock requirements. So I'm just going to pop in our details here. So I'm going to say our reorder level is 5, minimum level is 10, and the maximum level is 50. Okay. So apart from that, everything else is going to be standard within your stock item. So we need to create the details, we need to have at least one preferred supplier, and we need to have a location with at least one as a reorder level to auto-generate stock fulfillment. Now I'm going to raise a sales order. So in sales order processing, I'm going to go to my sales order list and just create a new order. Select the customer that I'm selling to. Where do I want to supply from? I'm now going to add the items that I want to sell to them. I'm going to select our new code, and now here, the fulfillment, I'm going to say I want to go from the supplier but via stock. I actually want to book the stock in, and then I will dispatch the items out myself. The quantity that they're wanting to purchase and the cost to that customer. At the bottom of the screen here now, we have an option to save and generate a purchase order. And I'm going to select that option, just populate my customer order number and say OK to that. just refresh my screen and just sort it so that that's the order that we've just generated. Let's have a little look at that order. And we can see that we've ordered, the customer's ordered 10, but nothing has yet been allocated or dispatched. If I view that item, I can drill down to the linked purchase order that's been generated, and here I can see that it's automatically generated to my preferred supplier, my ABC cooker, for the same quantity that the customer has ordered. Let's just go to purchase order processing and refresh my list here. Okay, there's a new purchase order that's been generated today. I'm going to just confirm goods received against that purchase order. Okay, so it's asking me for my reference number, a date and any narrative. I'm going to receive all 10 of those items and save this goods received. It's just generating a GRN for me. So now let's go back to our sales order list. Again, I'm going to view that sales order. And now when I show the quantities, the customer ordered the 10, and as soon as I receive those goods in against the purchase order that was automatically generated, it's allocated those 10 items to that line on that customer's order. I'm going to generate a new sales order. Again, I'll stick with Abbey Retail. And again, I'm going to add the items, and I'm going to select the new item that we've just created. This time, however, the fulfillment method, I'm going to say, is going to be delivered direct to the customer. I'm going to stick with the same quantity and save that line. And again, I'm going to save and generate a purchase order for this sales order. I just refresh my screen again. That's the order that we've just created. And if I view the details of that, again, what we can see is that the customer's ordered 10, but nothing yet has been allocated or dispatched. Let's go back to our purchase order that was automatically generated when we asked it to do so. And there you'll see we have purchase order number 3301. Now this time, if I were to select confirm goods received, okay, and I pop in my GRN number, my date and any narrative, I can't get into that quantity received box. The reason being is because this has been generated as a direct delivery, I have to select confirm direct delivery as opposed to confirm goods received. So if I go to confirm direct delivery, again, I just select the date, I can filter the screen. If I just display everything, here I can see the orders that are waiting for direct delivery, and I'm going to select the one we've just created. So it's defaulted the quantity to the same order quantity that was on our sales order, and I'm going to save that value. So now when I go to my sales order processing list, and I view that sales order that we just created, and look at the quantities, this time, the sales order quantity is 10. It hasn't just allocated that quantity, it's actually dispatched that quantity from this sales order directly to the customer. So this sales order is just ready to be invoiced. I don't have to do the manual dispatch as I would if I'd said I wanted it delivered from the supplier but via stock. So those are the two differences if we're doing just back-to-back orders from sales orders directly. Let's go back to purchase order processing. Now within the purchase orders option, there's an option there to generate orders. Now this process is going to look not only at your sales order requirements for any back-to-back orders or direct delivery orders, but it's also going to look at the quantities in stock and your reorder levels, and it's going to suggest stock purchases based on your fulfillment requirements. Before I do that, I want to go into our POP utilities and look at our POP settings. Oopsie, I didn't close down the window. So POP settings, and on here we have an option called order entry, and the first half of this screen is all to do with the generation of purchase orders. First of all, it's asking us, do we want to allow order entry for goods to be delivered direct from a supplier? And if that's the case, then we want to just determine, is the recipient address going to be a customer address, a free text entry, or a supplier address? Secondly, it's asking us if we want to generate purchase orders for back-to-back and direct delivery sales orders. Now, this is different to what we were just looking at from within the sales order process. What we're looking at here is all of the options that are available when we select the Generate Orders in our Purchase Orders option on the Purchase Order menu. It's also asking us if we want to generate separate purchase orders for direct delivery sales orders. So what this means is if I've got two sales orders on for a customer, one is going to come into stock and then be dispatched out, another one is going to be delivered directly to the customer, rather than creating just one purchase order for the two sales order requirements, it will generate separate purchase order for the direct delivery sales order. We'll see that in action in just a moment. We also have the option to exclude sales order lines depending on the on hold flag. So do we want to exclude sales order lines from our order generation for customer accounts when they are on hold? And do we want to do that when the fulfillment is direct delivery and or if the fulfillment is supplier via stock? We also have the option to exclude order lines for sales orders on hold. So a customer account's on hold and sales orders on hold. Again, either when the fulfillment is direct delivery or when the fulfillment is supplier via stock. I'm just saying we want to create the order regardless of the customer on hold status or regardless of the sales order on hold status. Okie dokes. So let's go to our purchase orders and generate orders. This is the list that was generated the last time you went into this process. So I always recommend that the first thing we need to be doing is highlighting everything and just deleting it. Okay, so we know we're starting from a clean order pad. We now select Update Order List, and this process will prompt us to what we want to be included in our order generation. So I want to include all outstanding sales orders with a line with a promised delivery date up to the end of this calendar year. Do I want to include unfulfilled sales order demands? And that's excluding your back-to-back and direct delivery sales orders, which are a separate option here. So any sales orders that are on the system for which we don't have any stock. I'm inclined to say you would normally tick that as well. Secondly, do we want to include our back-to-back and direct delivery sales orders? Well, yes, we do. So I'm going to say OK to that, and Sage is now going to read through all of our stock items and it's going to look for any requirements. Okie dokie. If I just sort it in there. So that's our new stock code that we've just created this morning, and it's suggesting that we purchase 5 items. If we view the detail, it will tell us why it's suggesting those 5 items. So we can see here we have no sales order requirements, because although we put those 2 sales orders on, we generated back-to-back orders directly for those sales order fulfillment. So there's no outstanding sales order shortage. However, if I click on the Stock Levels tab, we can see here that our reorder level is 5. Our free stock is 0. Hence, it's suggesting that we require another 5 to fulfill our stock replenishment back up to our reorder level. Before I actually generate the order, what I would like to do is again pop on a couple of sales orders so that we can see the effect that that has on our order generation in purchase order processing. So I'm going to create a new sales order. Add items. Select our new stock code. for a quantity of 12 at £20. Oops, who spotted what I didn't do there? Okay, I'm going to say I want that delivered from the supplier via stock. But I'm not going to save and generate the purchase order here. I'm just going to save the purchase order, the sales order. I'm now going to create a second sales order for a different customer. For the same stock code, this time for direct delivery to the customer, quantity of 15 at £20. Save that. And again, I'm just going to save my sales order. I'm not going to save and generate the purchase order at this point in time. Okay, let's see what happens now when we go into our purchase order processing, our purchase orders, and generate orders. Okay, so again, as I say, I always recommend we start off selecting everything, deleting everything that's currently in there. Let's update the order list for the same parameters. So promised delivery date up to the end of the current year. I'm going to include sales order demands, include back-to-back and direct delivery sales orders. Sage is now going through and it's recalculating our requirements. So again, if I sort it by code, you can see now that for our code A1, it's recommending or that we require 32. Let's have a look at the details. And we can see now that it's generated two demands. It's generated one for our home warehouse because we have one sales order that we wanted to fulfill from a supplier but via stock. So we have a requirement of 12 for that warehouse for that sales order. And if I go to my stock levels, we still have that 5 required. 5 required for the replenishment up to our reorder level. Secondly, we have our direct delivery option, and that was for the sales order where I selected direct delivery direct to the customer. So my stock level requirement is nothing for that particular warehouse, but my sales order requirement for that sales order is a quantity required of 15. Now, even though it's suggesting ABC cookers here, okay, I can choose whichever supplier I would like to purchase from. It recognizes that this supplier has got a specified stock item, and if I say yes, it's now updated the cost of that item to the cost that I will be paying that supplier. We also have a negotiate button here. We can negotiate on all of the items on all of this screen. If I say OK to that, I can go and I can negotiate on all of the items, whatever the requirements are. There's a print option here, which if I run this report, will list all the POP suppliers that I need to contact because I said I want to negotiate the cost with them. And I can just print this out and keep for my records and work my way through the suppliers. The telephone numbers are there to get the best price. It's also generated the POP items for negotiation report, which is just a list of our suppliers that we can then just again keep for our records and note down the prices that we get back from each supplier. If I go back into view the details, again I can just manually overtype the price rather than accepting the default price from a supplier. I also can purchase from different suppliers. But in this instance, I am actually going to purchase from the same supplier. And I'm going to say we're going to pay the same price from both. So now I'm no longer in a negotiation phase. I've confirmed the price that I'm going to pay for those items. So let's say OK to that. You can see on the screen here we have a column that says confirm status, and it's only when the confirmed status doesn't say none that a purchase order will actually be generated. So for all these other items that are in this generate purchase order screen, no purchase order will be generated because I haven't confirmed that I want to do so. So if I generate the orders now, thank you, and say OK to that, and close this screen. I'm going to refresh my purchase order list, and you'll see here that I have 2 purchase orders that have been generated for Atlas ranges. If I just view the first, okie dokie, you can see that's for the quantity of 15. And if I view the item, okay, we have linked orders, and we can see that this is linked to sales order number 5128. If I view our second order, and view the item for the quantity of 17, you can see that the linked order is for sales order number 5127. I only require the 12 to fulfill that sales order. The other 5 is a quantity to be received for stock based on our reorder level and our fulfillment requirements. So this particular order, I can confirm goods received, pop in my reference, my date and any narrative, and receive the quantity on the purchase order. Whereas this particular order, because it was for a direct delivery, okay, remember if I go to confirm goods received, I can't actually type anything in. I have to go to the confirm direct delivery option, and then just save the quantity that's been delivered directly to my customer. So now when I go to stock control on my stock list, okay, if I just view the history for this particular item, you can see that all of these transactions have been generated. A combination of direct delivery and warehouse transactions have been happening. And if I go to my sales order list, okay, let's refresh. If I view my sales order number 5127, okay, that quantity has now been allocated to that sales order. Whereas if I go to order number 5128, the quantity has not only been allocated, but it's gone on to the next stage and it's been dispatched to my customer. So this sales order is now ready to be invoiced. If I just quickly try to enter another order for the same item, okay. If I say I want to raise a back-to-back order, I now get this message. A purchase order is set to be generated to fulfill this order line. However, there is sufficient free stock at the warehouse to fulfill this order line. Do I wish to fulfill this order from stock as opposed to raising a separate purchase order? So you still have that flexibility available to you that if stock is available, it'll warn you before you create a new purchase order for that same stock item that there is available stock. Okay. And that, in a nutshell, is generating your purchase orders. There is just a couple of things that I just need you to be aware of. That to use this functionality, you must have chosen to automatically generate order and return numbers on the document numbering tab of the POP settings. So what I mean by that is if I go to purchase order processing and our utilities and our POP settings, oops, again, I've got a window open. Okay, we have to have that ticked on, automatically generate order numbers. Otherwise, Sage won't be able to automatically generate a purchase order. You must, I've mentioned this, you must have set your stock reorder levels to at least 1. If there's no reorder level, then Sage will not automatically generate a stock fulfillment requirement. You can still do the back-to-back and direct delivery orders, but just not the auto-generation for stock fulfillment. I've already mentioned this one as well. Your stock items must have a preferred supplier. You don't have to use that when you're doing your generate purchase orders. You can change that, and it will also pick up the supplier's price based on the supplier that you actually select in that generate purchase orders option, but you must have selected a preferred supplier. Excuse me. And if you do not want to generate a purchase order from sales order lines where the customer account is on hold or where the sales order is on hold, you must select the relevant POP settings. In our order entry here, we must have ticked these, and that will stop the automatic generation of a purchase order if a customer account is on hold or if the sales order is on hold. So I hope that's helped. It's a very, very simple process when you get used to it. You've got your handouts, your help sheets there, so please have a little look at those. And if you need any help or if you have any questions, please contact me and I'll be pleased to help. So enjoy the rest of your day and thank you for listening.